Hello everybody, thank you for watching. Here is a quick tutorial on how to do a dog's nose. What I'm doing here is a base layer of watercolor. This is Opera Rose from Winsor Newton, and I'm doing a super light wash. And I'm picking some of it up right there on the edges so I don't have a harsh line. My brush is just damp with water and I'm picking up a little bit so I don't have a harsh line on the edges. I like to do, and then this is Opera Rose mixed in with Payne's Gray to get this kind of violety color. I like to do base colors because the light colors really come through and give it that glistening look effect, like to make the nose look wet, as well as saving the white of your paper, but still the white is never really pure white. Maybe a few spots are, but never usually pure white. The yellow there that you see is masking fluid. That is where I want to keep the paper, the white of the paper. So I put masking fluid there, and you can see for the whiskers as well. I wanted to make sure that I had white left on the paper, black. Okay. So I left this part of the video in because it is really important to do the colors, to know what you're doing around the nose. Not necessarily just because we're doing the nose, we ignore everything else, but everything blends together, and all the colors, you want to keep them in harmony. So you don't want the colors shouting out at you all over the place. So I did the Payne's Gray that I used with the Opera Rose. I did that right underneath on the top of the mouth there. And then now I'm going in with a base layer of the fur. And you can tell it's kind of like a burnt sienna, kind of a pinky color. And here I am now after that dried, I'm going in more with a brown. I think that's burnt sienna, maybe burnt umber. And I like to do, as you can see, the nose is not even close to being done. But while it dries, while I did those two layers, I like to do the surrounding colors and layers because then it gives me more of an idea, and the colors always shift when it's next to say a complementary color. So you can see the purple that I did under the nose because I know the dog's fur is orange and purple, they're complementary colors. So I wanted them to bring out the best in each other, right? And always, whenever you do black anyway, I always mix in blue or a purple or even a red. So the black is never dull. And rarely, just like white, when you see something that's black, it's rarely ever truly black. You know, there's always a little leaning towards blue or green or something like that. So sure, you can have completely dark black in areas, but you never want to have a full, like the full nose just black, or even the eyes, the surrounding eye area. If you see there's a little red in his left eye up there. So anyway, getting off the subject here, back to the nose. So here I've just mixed a thicker version of the Payne's Gray, and I did it in the Opera Rose, and I did it just around the edges of the nose there and in the nostril. Now here I lost my line. I used the grid method. So that is a graphite pencil. It's water soluble too. So when I add water, it will just go away. But just for right now, I needed my lines so I know where to put the nostrils, and to make all the super fine detail. I felt like I was losing it a little. So I'm shading in my darker areas that I want to do, and getting more of a definition. And there I go, just kind of, I think I was lining up the pupil with the edge of the nose with my pencil. So you can tell I lost my grid. I have a grid very lightly in graphite sketched in there, and I covered it obviously with all that paint, watercolor, so I couldn't see it. So now I'm just going around, and I'm not, I'm going kind of dark because I know I want right in there those creases. I know I'm going to be going over them with a black pencil and a darker purple pencil after anyway, so I'm not afraid to go pretty dark there with my graphite. And, you know, it's graphite. I can always just dab it up with that. I don't know if you saw the kneaded eraser. I can always just do the kneaded eraser there if I think it got too dark. But again, I'm going to be covering that area anyway with watercolor. I know it's going to be a lot darker. So anyway, so here I go, just kind of dabbing it up with the eraser. I have my idea now of what I want to do. So you can't really see on the camera, but there definitely is graphite there, and I have a line to follow. So here I go with the brush, and I'm getting, because you see there's that line right there, demarcation basically, where the light, the values are super extreme. So this is really dark, and then the light part on the right side is really light. So I want a harsh kind of a line to give it that's what gives it like a 3D effect. There's very little transition, I guess is what I'm saying, because there's already a light yellow under there anyway on the left side of the face where it's really light. It's not pure white. It's actually a light yellow color wash that I did, one of the very first layers. So now I'm getting the shadows in. And the reason this is so important, I'm really taking my time, doing it anyway, is because now that's dry. You can see how it really dried, that shadow area that I did, because that shadow area really affects how the color of the nose how it affects the color of the nose. So again, it's an orangey shadow, and I have a purpley underpainting of the nose. So one could look a lot darker or lighter without the other. So I'm trying to get an even balance. I hope I said that right. So now I'm getting in my finer details here with a Polychromos pencil there that looks like a burnt sienna. And then this is a Caran d'Ache that looks like a pinky color. Maybe it was one of the, or a burnt sienna 10%, I think it is, Caran d'Ache. And this looks, okay, so you can see this is kind of a purpley red color from Caran d'Ache. That's a Polychromos. So I'm just doing my super fine details. Then after, I'm going in with odorless mineral spirits with a brush and blending all that in. That's always the fun part and the cool part. That's when it really kind of pulls it all together. But still, even after you do the blending with odorless mineral spirits, sometimes it can look kind of flat, and you still do another layer. Usually the last layer will be with the Caran d'Ache Luminance. So that gives it kind of a finished look, and you want to get it all into the grooves of the paper so it has a smooth effect. This paper will be in the description below. I want to make sure I know what it is before I say it, whether it's a Bristol or a watercolor paper. I'm pretty sure it's a watercolor paper, probably Fabriano Artistico, because I like that one because it's a pure white. The other ones aren't, are kind of a tinted white. They're not like a pure white. So I prefer the Fabriano Artistico, the heavy one, the heavyweight one, like the 300-pound one. So that's a pretty heavy one. Now I'm going in again with lighter colors around that area. I'm getting a base layer because I don't want anything to get too dark under that left side of the nose. So that was just a Caran d'Ache Luminance. It looked like the cream color. Now again, I've kind of lost my line, and I am finding it again. You know, that's what happens when you get old. Haha. You lose it and you gotta find it again. But so I'm just marking again. I have on the sides of my tape that's holding down the paper, I have the grid marks, like the ruler marks. So that's where I'm aligning my ruler to. And then I have a grid on my reference photo. So I'm aligning it to that just to make sure. Because the nose was looking, I think it was looking a little big. So I just needed to double check. So anyway, this is a brush with odorless mineral spirits on it, and it's got the tiniest little bit of odorless mineral spirits. It's just damp, not soaked at all, and I'm just kind of blending and pushing the because this is going to be one of my final layers, so I'm blending and pushing all that pencil that I just put on there. I'm pushing that in to the grooves of the paper to get that smooth effect, and you can kind of see it happening here. Oh yes, and don't forget to hit that like button if you're liking what you see. Now with the OMS, you can see how the purple pencils that I used, it really comes out. Isn't that pretty? But when I do a little black over and some browns too, the browns of the fur too get underneath there, it all kind of balances itself out. So I know it looks funny, like, oh my gosh, a purple nose, but you know what? That's actually giving it that really cool glistening glow effect. And I'm just taking my time here. The nice thing about odorless mineral spirits is that you can really, like I said, take your time. You know, if your brush dries out, you just dip it in a little bit. I like doing this better sometimes in watercolor, because watercolor, it's always like a race against the clock, right? You gotta do it before it gets too dry, or it's too wet, or the paper is too dry, or the paper is too wet, and it's gotta like just. So I prefer and smaller areas like this to get detail. I prefer to use color pencil with odorless mineral spirits. I feel that's how I can get the most details. But larger areas, like you see the base layers for the fur, then definitely watercolor. You know, I love the watercolor effect. It just looks really nice and loose. And then it gives the cool shadows and a little texture too, which you want for fur effect. You know, you want texture. You don't want a lot of texture on the nose. I mean, I know there is like a little bit of texture on their noses, but you don't want a lot. So anyway, so I filled in, so I let the nose dry really well after doing all the odorless mineral spirits. That's all I did. It just dried. So you can see how darker it looks. So now I went with my pencil and did browns and blacks and all that for the area right under his nose, and a little bit on his nose, like to get the details, like in his nostril and stuff. There's the little black pencil there that I did. So now you can see the odorless mineral spirits when I touch them just a little bit. It really brings out that color in the pencil, and that darkness, that is how you get the contrast and what makes it look so real in 3D. Okay, here's the finished result. You can see the golden lab got lots more golden, and the nose does not look purple. There a lot of black went over it, probably a couple more layers of the black with the OMS, but it all worked out. They complemented each other very well. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and share and like and watch my other ones. Thank you.